Squid Game has ended with Season 3, and after 23 episodes we got the conclusion to Gi-hun's story and the completion of the final games. Or were they the final games, as it seems like they could be taking place all over the globe. With the trichotomy of the situation of the games being at the heart of this season and life and death being the contrast that got a focus, the faith in human beings and the way that the exploitable were used as pawns for the entertainment of the elite was what got a key focus throughout the 6 episodes. And as well, the idea that there is still some good out there with that powerful ending. So with that, I want to discuss the ending for all of the main characters, the deaths and games in the new season, and answer what the ending of the entire show actually meant. So let's get into it. Here is Squid Game Season 3 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The ending explained. When it came to the ending of the show, it was pretty much shining a light on the horrific way that humanity can act, and that even though the soldiers, the frontman, and the VIPs were bad people, many of the players in the games were just as bad, as many of them were willing to tread on each other's toes and kill each other if it meant that the games would continue and they'd have a higher chance of being able to get more of the prize money. By the time the final game came around, which was Squid Game, Gi-hun was given a knife and the opportunity to kill all of the players in their sleep the night before, leaving just himself and the newborn baby, player 222, which would mean that the game wouldn't be able to go ahead, as there would just be 2 people. This is actually how In-ho won the games when he was a player many years ago. He cheated it basically by killing everybody in their sleep. In-ho posed this question to Gi-hun to see if he was cut from the same cloth as him, which would essentially mean that In-ho would have won, because he would have made Gi-hun stoop to his level. But as we saw, he didn't do it, and he proceeded to go ahead and play the game. Player 100 was the prime example of the bad side of humanity. On a countless number of occasions, he'd sacrifice others if it meant that he was able to survive, and he was still trying to do that in the final game. Arguably, the worst thing that many of them agreed to was killing the innocent baby. I'd say that the greed in man came right to the forefront during the final game, where Myung-ji was willing to kill his own child if it meant that he got more of the prize money. A harmless, innocent baby that had committed no sin and was in there through no fault of its own was going to meet the harsh reality of what humankind can be at its core before it was even a week old. This is why Gi-hun and Myung-ji fought it out. But as we saw, the button hadn't even been pressed, which showed that the games hadn't even begun when Myung-ji fell to his death. Even in that moment, Gi-hun was still trying to save him and to not let him fall, even though he was trying to kill him only moments earlier. With Gi-hun getting up, he walked over to the edge of the final platform, looked at the frontman and the VIPs, and then looked down the lens of the camera, which was almost like it was a message to us due to it being a commentary on people in society. And he then proceeded to say, "We are not horses, we are humans, and humans are..." Before he finished his sentence, he stepped off of the platform and fell to his death, showing that he stood by the promise that he gave to Jun-hee, where he said the most important thing is letting the baby survive. And that's exactly what he did, showing that he never changed or wavered in his beliefs. He gave up his own life so that an innocent life would be able to go out there in the world and make something of herself. He saw the suffering that was caused by the games, and he wasn't tempted by the money either, because as we saw with him, the money didn't even make him happy. Gi-hun was an anomaly in there because he was a good human being at his core, and he wasn't prepared to kill innocent people just for the sake of the games. What was also powerful about this scene was the fact that Kang Noel was watching it all unfold on the screen in front of her, and it was actually the very thing that stopped her from ending things for herself. She looked through her file, and as it was burning on the floor, which symbolized her giving up on her life and the search for her daughter, she was willing to call it a day. But Gi-hun sacrificing himself for the new life made her believe that there was still goodness that was out there in humanity, and the world wasn't just evil. With the Coast Guards also getting closer to the island due to Jun-ho making it there, we saw that the games were won by the newborn. In-ho collected her, and everybody evacuated the island before it was about to be destroyed. Following this, we saw the ending for all of the other characters. We saw that Jun-ho was stripped of his title of detective following all of the stunts that he pulled, and In-ho left the baby with him to raise, along with the prize money on the debit card. Woo-seok took over the Pink Motel after being released from prison and was looking to renovate it and open up a business. We saw that all of Gi-hun's money was taken from the motel, and we didn't know where it went. But In-ho actually went to the United States where Gi-hun's daughter was, and he gave her a card which had all of the money on it. What was sad was that Gi-hun originally went into the games to be able to have enough money to see his daughter and give her a good life, but she ultimately ended up resenting him because he was absent, saying that she stopped waiting around for him a long time ago. So it showed that money wasn't the be-all and end-all in that situation. We also saw that Kang Noel got on a plane to China because that's where it said that her daughter was spotted, so she was hoping to be reunited with her, just like player 246 was with his daughter. And then finally, probably the darkest thing of them all was that as In-ho was driving through Los Angeles, he saw Dukji being played by a recruiter on the streets. So I think this showed that the games had gone global and they must have been happening all over the world. Could In-ho be getting assigned to a new Squid game as a frontman, or was his time done with the games? Hence his change of heart and his decision to go to Gi-hun's daughter and give her his belongings and all of his money. The woman clearly recognized him, so I think that's left down to us to decide. The ending of this show truly shone a light on the evil that lies within humans and the dark places that they'll go to better themselves, even if it comes at the misfortune of others. But it also shone a light on the fact that those that are in need can sometimes be exploited by those that have. Everybody is human regardless of their situation, and all life is just as valuable as the other, no matter what financial or class system you sit within. The main deaths. During this season, there were tons of deaths, way more deaths than we had in season 2. I knew that there were going to be many on the cards, but I didn't expect the emotional ones to hit as hard as they did. The first true emotional one came in episode 2 of the show during Hide and Seek. This was when Hyunju died. Hyunju did all that she could to protect Gyeomja and Jeonhee whilst they were playing the game, and she even found the exit to the game, which could have given her that safe haven that she needed. But as she was a good person, she gave up that freedom for herself in that moment so that she could tell the others and also get them to safety. But as she did that, Myungji killed her, meaning that she died in front of the very people that she was trying to protect, and Myungji didn't even need to kill her to get through because he'd done that. What was so powerful about this was that she had the chance of freedom, safety, and the ability to leave, but she ended up going back because she showed characteristics of being a good person, something that was difficult to find in there. The next powerful death that occurred was Gyeomja. She killed her son Yongsik as he was going to kill Jeonhee, as she didn't feel like she deserved that. She gave a speech to Gi-hun about how she once did everything that she could to protect him, even saved his life when he tried to end things for himself, and that she promised God that she'd walk through fire for him as long as he survived. But when it actually came to it, she was the very person that ended up killing him. There was a level of guilt that she felt that she couldn't live with, and she ended things for herself, which I thought was just so upsetting. It came out of the blue. After that death, we saw that Jeonhee hit the floor during the jump rope game. She had her baby and Gi-hun got the kid across, but due to her fracturing her ankle, there was no way that she was going to be able to complete the jump rope game. With her coming to that realization, she said to Gi-hun that she just wanted to make sure that the baby survived. With tears going down her face, she threw herself off the edge, meaning that she perished along with many others. Another strong one was Minsu. Minsu was a character that was lost in life, and we saw that he'd felt the harsh hand of being bullied, and he never really felt like he had a place. However, he did actually make it to the final game, but during this game, he was having withdrawals from the tablets that he was taking, and he was mourning Semi, constantly seeing her and believing that she was in front of him. As well as that, he also saw Thanos and Namgyu, who were tormenting him, and in this scene, Semi came to comfort him in his vision. As he was reaching out for her hand, it was actually the pole that was being pushed towards him, and he sadly fell to the bottom. Then we had the most powerful death of them all, Gi-hun. There was always going to be a chance that he wasn't going to get out of the games alive this time, and the fact that he didn't worked so well. Gi-hun's death showed that there was goodness that was out there in humanity, and that greed simply didn't dominate those that were there. On a countless number of occasions, he didn't cheat the system, the games, or sacrifice others in order to better himself. He just went through the games with his core values and beliefs at the forefront, and that ultimately led him to meet his demise. It was powerful seeing him go, but it was needed because if he didn't die, I don't think the message would have got across in the way that it did. My review of the season. I thought this was a really good way for Squid Game to end. I thought each and every story arc that was present, from the games to Noel's to Jeonhee finding the island, had the perfect balance, and it didn't feel like any were on the back foot. which is what my criticism of the second season was. I thought the final 2 episodes were definitely the best of the bunch. The tension was so high throughout all of them, and I was just hooked. I couldn't move. The idea of having Squid Game in the sky was a good way of elevating it from the first season, and the prospect of Myungji killing his own child so that he could win all of the money was a haunting sight to see, and it really did shine a light on the dark side of humankind. When it came to the performances, I thought all of the cast absolutely delivered. This season was littered with emotion due to all of the deaths that were occurring, and it was reminiscent of Season 1 in that sense, because Season 2 didn't feel as emotionally engaging. I felt way more connected to the characters in this season compared to Season 2 because we simply got way more time with them. One thing I will say though is I don't think Season 2 or Season 3 topped Season 1. That was just special. When it came to the games in this season, I thought they were extremely creative and filled with tension. The hide and seek game was a terrifying one to bear witness to. It was brutal, and the fact that they had to be up close and personal and kill each other showed just how horrific people could be. The next game, which was Jump Rope, was one that also looked extremely difficult. Having that player pushing people off before they made it to the platform was also a dark moment and really shone a light on the lengths that people would go to. Then finally, Sky Squid Game was probably my favourite because we just saw many of the players turning on each other, which ultimately caused most of their demises. All of the games were well thought out and they were enjoyable to watch. When it comes to Squid Game as a whole, I respect them for ending the show and not just dragging it on and on, which many shows end up doing. They ultimately become stale if they do that, and they don't resemble what they originally were, so I think it ended at the right time. It also meant that they were able to kill off the main character, which was a decision that I respected. It's been a pleasure watching a great show like this, and it's a generation-defining TV series that wasn't substanceless. If anything, you could argue it's a show that had the most to say in quite a long time. So, there you have it, Squid Game Season 3 Ending Explained. If you want to see many other videos on Squid Game, then check the playlist below, and don't forget to subscribe as I'll be dropping a few more videos on this season as well. What did you think of the ending? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.